Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Sadhana Chatushtaya is a teaching of the divine sage Adi Shankara. This teaching refers to the 4 traits that one should strive and develop before and during one's spiritual journey. These form the bedrock for spiritual growth and personal transformation. On March 5th, at an auspicious time, Mangala, Guru and I took a dip in the Ganges at the Ganga Mahal Ghat. Enjoyed your bathing?
Sure, yeah.
So, how was the experience?
Wonderful. First, initially it was so cold, but the moment, like you said, once we immersed ourselves, it's too good, Sunder. Beautiful.
Later, I did the Rudra Abhishekam to the Kaivalya Lingam that I had taken with me, and then sat down by the banks, inspired to share some thoughts on Dama, the second of the 6 virtues.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Namaste and welcome to KYG on the banks of Varanasi. How fortunate are we, you and I, to experience this? Like I always say, in spirit we are all connected. Time and space really doesn't matter. So if I'm here, you are here. If you're watching, even in future or past, it really doesn't matter. In spirit you are in Varanasi, and so am I. And so this class, hopefully the battery will last. I just had a dip in the Ganges, so it's always refreshing. It was a little cold, not too bad, and then it was just a great experience. So talking about the 4-fold prerequisites, we had covered Viveka and Vairagya, and then the third one was Shat Sampati, the 6 virtues, and in that we touched upon Shama. And in today's class, let's talk about Dama, Shama Dama, right? It's easy to remember, Sama Dama, Shama Dama. So while Shama relates to the mind and equanimity of the mind and so on, Dama relates to the senses. What does that mean? Dama is simply restraining the senses, period. It's like building a fence and keeping the bull inside the fence, period. Boom. There is no other way to put it. If you want to have an ice cream, you really don't need it, but you just want to have an ice cream, you just stay away from an ice cream shop. That's all it is. Just stay away from it. Just block that ice cream from your consciousness, from coming anywhere near you. Now that might seem like suppression and all of that, right? To some extent, I would think that is less about 10-15% that you stop it. But then you see that that is not taught alone. It is taught with Vairagya, with Viveka, with Sama, and all of that put together. So you got to understand this in that context. Restraining of the senses come only from that point of view. It is never taught alone. It can never be practiced alone, because it is very unhealthy to simply suppress yourself. Suppress a desire and say, no, I'm going to suppress it and I'm going to put a lid on it and things like that. That's not the idea here. Let me give you an analogy. Why do we even need this kind of restraint, you would think, right? So the analogy here for you to understand, for you to meditate upon in today's class is, think of a tree, a banyan tree. A huge banyan tree that's perhaps 100 years old, is giving shade to cows and bulls and all the animals, people in the village. Everybody's taking shelter under that tree, grateful for that tree. It protects them from rain, from wind, from storm, right? But that tree was once a tender little plant at one point. Now when that plant was very small and young and it was just a shoot was coming off the ground, if there was no restraint applied to that tree, in other words, if there was not a stick set next to it and the trunk of the tree was tied to it, so it goes up straight and therefore its roots can get firmly, what do you think would have happened? The tree would have gone on extremely crooked. And we do this to many of us who have gardens, who have plants, do this, right? We don't think twice about, oh my God, the plant is getting restrained, or am I suppressing the plant? Why are you doing it? So the plant will go straight, the plant will grow much stronger, give more fruits, more flowers. That's number one. So that's one thing is at a certain stage in your growth, and that continues forever. So growing is continuing because the self keeps expanding, and so the stick that is tied to is always there. That means that stick. What does that stick mean in your life, in my life? I understand that stick as the core belief system, core value system. You have to find out what that is for you. And you can allow it to change or you can stick to it. I allow mine to change. I keep discovering, redefining the core values. And my core values are very simple, taught to me by Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba. Very simple. Satya, truth. Dharma, righteousness. Shanti, peace. Ahimsa, non-violence, and prema, love. That's it. So Satya, Dharma, Shanti, Prema, Ahimsa. These are the 5 core values around which all my practices, my entire lifestyle and everything is based. But what do they mean? What does Satya mean to me? What does right action mean to me? What does love mean to me? What is non-violence to my definition? I keep changing it as I keep learning, as I keep expanding, right? But those are my core values. That is the pole on which my spiritual growth is tied on, and it will grow from there. I find a great deal of support in that. That is one side of the picture. Going back to the tree now. Think of it. When this tree was small, the very same cows that is now seeking shelter under it, right now it's 100 years old. When this tree was small, the very cows that took shelter under it, the very cows that are taking shelter under it right now could have eaten it when it was small. So a plant cannot suddenly say, I'm going to go out and shelter the cows and bulls. It is too small to handle that. Because in the process of it being exposed, those cows are going to come and eat it for breakfast, lunch and dinner. So the plant will cease to exist. So what do you do for the plant? To protect the plant so that in future this plant will grow into a tree and provide sustenance for the cows and bulls and all of that. For that to happen, you put a fence around the plant to protect it from the very cows that will otherwise eat it. And these are the very cows that get protected by the plant, but at a later stage. It's very important to understand this analogy. I like this analogy and I use it. So the idea here being that when we are practicing spiritual progress and we want to save the world, we want to help people, our spirit goes out when we see a beggar on the road, when we see young children, like a couple of them behind me, just playing around. Maybe they don't have school, maybe they don't go to school, I don't know. But your heart goes out to reaches out and I say, I want to help them, I want to help all these people. But if you're a tender plant, you'll get lost in that. You'll not be able to help. You need to become strong like the tree, and then the tree provides its own inner strength. It doesn't decide to help people, it knows it can, right? That strength, how does it come? Till that happens, you need to put a fence around yourself. It is in that context that sense control is taught. It is in that context that you and I should practice sense control. That I need this so that I get my space to strengthen my own reserves, to understand. Like, when we talked about the 5 elements in the 5 elements classes, we understand that each of these are energy centers in the body. And if I have to understand these senses, I have to understand the elements that empower these senses. And therefore, in understanding them, in meditating upon them, in being reverential attitude towards them, both outside and inside, space outside, space inside, sound outside, sounds inside that goes into my ears, sounds that come out of my mouth, more I become more mindful of that, then this need for restraint, external restraint, Dama, becomes slowly impervious. It kind of falls off on its own. And then when that practice kind of fades away, you bring it back, put that fence around, and again go into that space, become mindful, and watch which of my senses are weak, which of my elements are a little in excess in my body that's causing me to do this or that. It is in that context that we have to understand Dhamma, or control of the senses. Don't simply say, I'm going to suppress, I'm not going to have sex for the next 1 year, or I'm not going to eat sweets for the next 1 year. That's all crazy. I mean, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say crazy. You know what I mean? That's not going to give you spiritual progress. It'll give you a sense of satisfaction, a sense of ego, maybe, yes, I achieved, but other than that, it's not going to give you anything. It is when the desire, when your mind, like I said earlier, in Shama, when it appears to be detached and it's not affected. You're watching a TV show, it's exciting movie, and then the power goes off, and then, oh, you're also disappointed and upset. But if you say, oh, okay, I'll catch it some other time, right? It's perhaps easy to do in a movie, but in real life situations, when you worked very hard for a project and something is coming up, a project, a relationship, whatever it is, and then suddenly, boom, it just vanishes, it crashes in front of your eyes, then your tendency is to get angry, to get upset, blame this one, blame that one, and all that. Instead, if you detach yourself and ask yourself, what is going on? Okay, this is not affecting me, but this is a phase that I am passing through, and therefore it's okay. Then the mind attains Shama, then Dama automatically comes. The senses are automatically restrained. So you don't get very upset, and because you don't get very upset, you don't go to the fridge and dig out a ice cream bucket and start eating ice cream, saying, I'm upset, I'm depressed, I need sweet, and I need my pleasure centers in the brain to get fired up and all of that stuff. So please meditate on Dhamma, control of the senses. What is control of these senses? So when you meditate today, think of the 5 senses, the sense of touch, the sense of taste, the sense of smell, the sense of hearing, and the sense of sight. And ask yourself, which do you feel is the weakest? And then ask yourself, how am I going to put that little fence around it? And try and in the meantime, when you put that fence, then you go and study that energy. Don't simply put a fence and walk away. You have to, let's say, for example, my sight, I want to control my sight. Then I put a fence around my sight. I'm not going to see certain things, or watch some TV shows, maybe something. Then I ask myself, eyes, fire element, eyes and feet. So I'm going to now work on all this, understanding where is the fire element in my belly. How is it connected to my vision? I'm going to meditate and understand the fire element. Once I understand the fire element, the sense of vision comes under my control. I'm able to understand it. And then I will navigate that energy to where I want it, not where it runs amok. Like the tree that had no foundation, just grows all over. We need to understand that energy and navigate the energy, charter through that energy, and take our boat where we want to go. Okay, so I'm with all these boats, so boat, river, charter, navigation, these are the words that come to my mind. So that's it. So we have Sama and Dhamma, and then you have 4 more, that all of that form are subcomponents of this third characteristic feature, that is a prerequisite. When I keep saying prerequisite, I always keep correcting myself, because the word is not prerequisite. Technically explained, it is not meant to be a prerequisite. These are foundational pillars. These are pillars that they will be there forever. These practices are not going away. And so Viveka, Vairagya, Shama and Dhamma. So in your class today, meditate on Dhamma. Understand the necessity for control of the senses. Understand the context in which it has to be done. Understand that it cannot be practiced in isolation. It has to be practiced with Vairagya, with Viveka, with Shama in view, and all of the others that I'm going to talk about. All these 4 pillars together support your spiritual practice, not just one out of the ordinary practice. So thank you for watching. I'm glad my battery lasted this long. So thank you for watching. It's always such a great pleasure to share these classes with you. May the Lord Shiva, may the Shiva within you, the Lord within you, the divinity within you guide you in understanding this more and more. All discovery takes place within us. Nothing is outside of us. This is a reflection of you. You are a reflection of me. So we are all just reflecting what? One divine consciousness is being reflected. The one divine sun is being reflected in the millions of little ponds and lakes. That's it. There's just one consciousness. So let us bask in that oneness, and in my journey you progress, in your journey I progress, and you and I meet together in oneness in Kaivalya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. This is where we did the Dama class from. Look at that. Look at this, how beautiful it is.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.